Alright guys, today we're talking about the very infamous Highguard. If you've been following gaming for over the last month and a half, then you know all about Highguard and the absolute disaster this game found itself in after its initial trailer release at the Game Awards. Following that announcement, the team over at Wildlight Entertainment took what can only be called a very interesting marketing approach as they went completely dark. No new marketing, no social media posts, no new trailers, no open betas, and no direct way of getting in contact with any of the developers. A very unique approach that many looked at harshly, but to be honest, I found to be rather intriguing. It took some balls to try and not course correct the ship with marketing and public playtests and just allow the game to speak for itself. But now the game's out. And if you look at the Steam reviews, you can clearly see that Highguard is not doing too great, and the Steam charts support this, showing that the game lost more than half of its peak player base in just a couple hours. But I've played it, and I got some initial thoughts about it, and while I don't think Highguard is going to be another Concord, they need to be very careful with how they choose to update the game, because it could get to that point. But let's get into the review and my thoughts on Highguard so far. First things first, let's just start with how the game works. If you're already familiar with the game and don't want a breakdown on how the game works, I'll put a timestamp you can skip to for the review to start. But anyways, this game is a 3v3 first-person shooter in the style of which they are calling a raid shooter, which essentially means looting and gearing up to eventually go raid the enemy team's base to ultimately win the game. You have a total of 8 wardens/heroes to choose from, all of which have their own unique and special abilities, are free to everyone, and are categorized into 5 different playstyles: Assault, Defensive, Destructive, Recon, and Support. The game starts by voting what arena you want to defend, setting up the defenses, and then you spend a few minutes running around, looting various chests, mining materials, and purchasing upgrades at the shop. Once the time for gearing up is over, you will see a cooldown appear for the sword, Shield Breaker. This is important because you will need to play Capture the Flag with this sword to be able to break the opposing team's shield to initiate a raid. After a shield has been broken, the objective shifts to where the attacking team has a limited amount of time to invade the enemy's base to destroy its core structures, and the defending team must stop them. Each team's base has 100 health, and the game ends when a team's base gets completely destroyed. Attackers must plant bombs on either of the 2 generators, which deal 35 damage to the enemy team's base, or go for the Anchor Stone, which deals 100 damage and instantly wins the game. However, if the defense prevents the attacking team from planting any bombs, the attacking team takes 30 damage to their base, and collecting the Shield Breaker and starting a raid instantly causes 30 damage to the opposing team. After a raid is ended, assuming the Anchor Stone was not destroyed, you go to the next round, gaining higher tiers of gear, and you keep going until there's a winner. From a gameplay perspective, I have to say I'm torn on how to feel with this game. On one hand, it is a very fun and enjoyable gameplay loop, but on the other hand, I can't help but feel like this game just lacks a ton of creativity. It just feels so lifeless, and it's just a copy and paste of game modes from other popular games. Capture the Flag from Halo, setting up defenses, planting and defusing bombs from Siege, similar hero systems where you're only able to pick 1 character per team, which is dumb, just like Apex or Overwatch. Not to mention the character's abilities behave and function very similarly to that of an Apex or a Valorant. The in-game shop where you can upgrade and buy new items throughout a match is even somewhat comparable to Counter-Strike. There just isn't a lot Highguard brings to the table that feels new, other than being able to summon and ride a horse at will. But there are some things Highguard does that is genuinely great, the main one being the gunplay. Even if the guns themselves are a bit bland, the moment-to-moment action feels incredible. If you're a fan of Apex, you'll feel right at home, as this game feels very similar and in some instances is even better. The abilities of the characters as of right now don't feel broken or abusive. They actually feel quite tame, and I think for a strictly PvP environment, that's a really good thing, as I appreciate that the abilities add to the overall gunplay instead of overtaking it. The time to kill feels good, not too fast, not too long. I like the fact that the game is very objective driven, and the last thing I'm liking is the absolute high tension gameplay of defending or attacking during a raid. But honestly, that's where most of my positive thoughts end. Even if the gameplay loop is enjoyable, which it is, and even if the game feels well balanced, it just feels like a game I've already played countless times. I'm not the biggest fan of the character designs. They feel very generic and almost mobile-like, and their voice lines are just way too over the top and cringy.
They say I've got a very punchable face. It's me. No one's ever successfully tested the theory.
The maps are way too big for a 3v3 PvP game, and I can't help but feel like this game would be a lot better if it was a 5v5, because when you're out of combat, gearing up, or respawning, you just spend a lot of time riding around on your horse trying to get back into the action, which can get very boring very quickly. As far as I know, there isn't a clear definitive way to check how you're performing during a game. In my time playing, I couldn't find a kill counter or anything until the match ended. The gearing up phase takes way too long, and it adds no sense of urgency or desire to chase better loot because of the way the game is set up. Everyone on the first raid has blue gear, everyone on the second raid will have purple gear, and everyone on the third raid will have gold gear. This makes the looting aspect of the game feel meaningless, because what's the point in interacting with the looting mechanic when I can just buy most of the upgrades from the shop, plus interacting with the looting systems doesn't even give you any sort of a leg up because everyone else is going to be at the same playing field you are throughout the entirety of the game, and it's rare if that's not the case. This game is a hero shooter, yet the characters to me feel like there's no real team synergy between them, and the audio for the footsteps are genuinely terrible. They're so loud and you cannot tell if an enemy player is under you or above you.
You can now walk through this wall whenever you get ready. Shooting! Been shot out here! Reloading.
And the replayability is something that I think will get stale over time. Hell, it's already gotten stale for me, and I've only played for a few hours. Ultimately, Highguard is a fun game. It really is, but it's not a good game. It's very clear that the developers are incredibly talented, but they lacked a lot of creative vision for the game. And while I found their decision to go dark and just stick to their original release date intriguing, I think in the end it backfired on them. They should have had developer insights in open betas, and they should have used those things as a way to listen and engage community feedback and employ any delays if needed. But I don't even know if delays could have helped, because at its core, this game doesn't even know what it wants to be. If you want my honest opinion on whether or not you should give Highguard a try, I would say yes, but only because it's free to play and the file size isn't too big. I would not recommend going into this thinking this game is going to be your next favorite live service, and I would definitely not recommend spending any money in the cosmetic shop. And in the end, I'll probably only play Highguard when I'm bored with the other games I actually want to play, or if my friends want to play it. Because while there is something here, it's not something I want. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed my review of Highguard, but now I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Do you enjoy the game? Do you not? Have you given it a try yet, or are you going to skip out on playing it entirely? Do let me know in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.